I'm not mad. That was the response to the dad asking if his teenage son was angry. So, does your kid struggle with anger? That's definitely something we need to help them with, because it's really hard to move through life with a lot of anger. It's hard to keep a job, to have friends and neighbors, to maintain a romantic relationship. Sometimes it's even hard to have a home without holes in the walls. So years ago, I worked with a guy that had a lot of anger. Matter of fact, this guy, he couldn't last more than a couple days on the job before he would punch the boss. And it happened on more than one occasion. And it wasn't very long, and he couldn't get a job anywhere. So how do we help our kids with an anger problem? Well, that's a good question. The first step we need to do, as usual, is we need to look in the mirror. Do we, as parents, are we struggling with anger? Maybe it's not the explosive kind of stuff. Maybe it's more of a silent thing. But however we're reacting in anger, and that's not modeling how to manage our emotions very well, we'll end up feeding the very monster that we're trying to eliminate. Anger looks different in different people, or even in different times within the same person, right? So there's that Incredible Hulk type of rage, explosive anger. It's very loud, it's damaging, it's highly visible, and basically everybody runs away so they don't get destroyed, right? Then there's another kind of anger, and that's that low boil, simmering kind of anger when someone's angry and the people around can tell and nobody wants to discuss it. Everybody avoids the elephant in the room. People are walking on eggshells. Nobody wants to rock the boat, right? There's also an invisible anger. And this one is kind of the one where a person might give another person the silent treatment. It's cold. Sometimes it's not noticed by people around unless they're really close to the person and can tell they're behaving differently. People can tend to hide this one pretty well, but sometimes it pops out a little bit with those snarky, sarcastic comments and digs that might even sound funny, but really they're meant to be jabs and meant to hurt the other person. So what kind of types of anger, or how do you see anger in your life? And how do you see it in the lives of your kids or your spouse or your partner? Sometimes anger has been called a secondary emotion, and I think of it this way a lot of times. I kind of think of two types of emotions that we have. There's these emotions that you feel stronger with, and there's some that you feel weak with, right? The empowering feelings, emotions are like anger, excitement, being optimistic, being appreciated, feeling important. Those are ones that help us feel empowered, valued, stronger, right? Then there's the more vulnerable feeling emotions. That's like sadness and worry and fear, being hurt by somebody, feeling discouraged or embarrassed. And often what happens is when we feel one of these more vulnerable emotions, anger comes in to rescue us because we don't like to feel so weak. And if that's the case, it's helpful to consider what we're feeling prior to the anger, because it can give us a clue about what's going on with the situation, right? We don't want to just stuff the anger. What we'd really like to do is resolve the whole situation. One of the things that's helpful is to figure out why somebody gets angry. So this is kind of important, because if we're trying to work on our anger or help our kids work on theirs, there's kind of common reasons why people get angry, and it's important to kind of get an idea of what those are. Sometimes a person is trying to gain back control. And when we're dealing with teens are striving for independence, and we really want that. Eventually, we want them to grow up, move out, and make their own life. If they aren't gaining more control over their lives as they get older, they might have anger. And in that case, the anger is actually a good sign. We just need to help them get an appropriate level of control for their age. As they get more of the control, the anger is going to kind of subside a bit. Remember, we need to give our kids control gradually. We don't want to just drop them off the wagon at age 18 with no prior experience in making decisions or having responsibility. Then they're bound to miserably fail, right? We need to gradually feed them responsibility and allow them to digest it into their daily lives. When is anger good? So there are times when anger is a good thing. A lot of times anger gets a bad rap, and most of the time it's because we misbehave. People misbehave when they're having anger. But anger can be a good response. So for instance, our family has been doing a walk for the fight against human trafficking. And when I think about people getting trafficked, especially into the sex slavery industry, I get pretty angry about that. I think it's good when we get angry about seeing other people lose their freedom. A while ago, a guy was telling me about seeing a black family that was out at an event and they were not getting treated fairly. As he told me about helping them out, I could see he was getting angry about it. It's another good time. It isn't right, right? Getting angry when others need to be defended can be a good emotion. If your kid gets angry about seeing another kid bullied or how their friend was mistreated, those are the times when anger is a reasonable response. Now, we still need to respond appropriately by not attacking the person who's doing the harm, but anger can get us to stand up for those who are being mistreated. So the real question is, what is it that's worth getting angry about? When is it appropriate to seek professional help? You know, most of the time our kids are going to be able to work through their anger. They need to learn how to get angry to avoid doing damage and reacting to it, and then getting back to a calm place. Some of this just needs to be learned by trial and error, and typically a kid will show progress. Each time might get a little bit better. Or they're going to get angry, they're going to do something drastic, and they're going to learn a lesson very quickly. I heard about one kid who got really, really angry and he punched the wall, but he hit the stud and broke his hand. And for, weeks and weeks after that, he's got his hand in a cast. He learned the lesson the hard way, and he remembered, right? So we don't want kids breaking bones. But the lesson can get learned as well because it takes a long time to heal. But if things don't improve, let's say you don't see some change, then it's time to seek some professional help. And I'm in favor of addressing it earlier rather than waiting until it's really, really bad. You can use maybe your church or school to help find a professional to get some help. There are also many online listings that you can go to for therapists or counselors, people to help. Many times health insurance companies can even refer you to a few options that are in network for you. And while it's difficult to admit that you need help with your kid, it's better than allowing the problem to persist and having a bigger problem down the road.